Today, we're going beyond traditional medicine's primary goal to simply diagnose and treat existing diseases and leaning into a new type of medicine being embraced by millions of Americans who are now turning to functional health doctors.
From the Stream Center, welcome to Bloom Health Club, sponsored by Monticello Family and Sedation Dentistry.
Welcome to Bloom Health Club. I'm your host, Gale Guyardo, and our guest today is Chiropractic Physician and Acupuncturist, Dr. Cathleen Gerenger. Dr. Cathleen, I am so excited to have you join Bloom Health Club.
I'm so excited to be here.
So I've known Dr. Cathleen for many, many years, and she was really one of the first medical professionals here in the Tampa Bay area that taught me the importance of taking a deep dive into our health. And I'm not saying that your primary doctor is not fantastic. They definitely play a role in medicine, but at the end of the day, they're not digging so deep where they can really get into some of the preventative care. So I know, Dr. Cathleen, you're really into analyzing blood panels, right?
Absolutely, and I love it.
So what do you learn from looking at a deep dive of a blood panel that a lot of doctors might not look at a typical routine visit?
Yes, it tells so much about the patient, and I just feel like with healthcare, we have to really personalize our healthcare system a little bit more towards that patient. Not everything is a cookie cutter.
And one of the main things that when I first met you, you did a full panel, and I was feeling tired, run down all the time, and actually a little bit emotionally distressed. And there was a couple of things that you zeroed in on that nobody found. And I had been going to doctor after doctor after doctor. One, my hormones were shot. And then I also had something that became really common after the COVID pandemic, and that was Epstein-Barr. And you found that, and I hadn't even heard of it. And then come to find out, I had never had mononucleosis, which is what Epstein-Barr comes from, which means it most likely was triggered after I got vaccinated for COVID, which happened to a lot of people, according to a Yale study.
Yes, and what happens is that a lot of times these symptoms overlap with other symptoms because of your history of thyroid problems. You go to your doctor and they're like, oh, maybe it's your thyroid. Let's increase your thyroid dose. That's like, no, that doesn't make sense. Too much thyroid can actually suppress your TSH level, which is your thyroid stimulating hormones. That can cause tachycardia. That can cause a lot of complication. But you, Gale, I kind of like look at your blood and I was like, no, I got this gut feeling it's more than that. That's when we order the Epstein-Barr virus panel.
Yeah, and I think that is the really big overreaching message that I want to drive home to everybody listening or watching Bloom Health Club today, that even if you can't afford to consistently see and pay out of pocket to see a Dr. Cathleen Gerenger type of doctor, wouldn't you think it's fair to say at least one visit, just pay out of pocket for that one visit, because you will walk away with so much more information than you would at a typical doctor's visit. And why is it that the typical doctor's visit looks at the scope of issues in a much more narrow way?
Well, because it's called standard of care, standard medicine. So in medical school, we're taught that this is the range from this number to that number. But to establish that range, you have such a wide range that kind of pull in the sick people as well. As an individual, you have to look and see what is your optimum range. For example, we talk a lot about the thyroid, 0.5 all the way up to 5.5. Optimally, we like it to be between 0.5 to 1.0 or even 2.0, depending on your age group. So if you're at 3 or 4, you're not at that red zone yet. So they look at, they're like, oh, you're normal, but you're like, but I don't feel like it.
Mm-hmm. You don't feel like it. The other thing that I think is really, really interesting is that if you're a man and you have low testosterone levels, that the insurance is going to pay for it. But if you're a woman and your hormones are completely out of whack, insurance doesn't cover that. And I think, there were nights that I would go to sleep before I had my hormone panel run by you, and I was so depressed and filled with anxiety. And I'm like, why do you feel this way, Gail? You have this amazing life. Your job's on track. Your kids are on track. You have an incredible and supportive husband. And yet, I am depressed and down in the dumps to the point that I'm like, why am I even alive? Well, typically when you go to your doctor, they're going to hand you an antidepressant. That wasn't it. It ended up that I had low estrogen, low testosterone, low progesterone. Everything was in the tank. And that helped, that really can crush your mental health. And being that the only thing that's covered by insurance is, antipsychotic or different antidepressants and things like that, they're giving women these medications when that's not what they need.
Yes, and we have to really look into root cause. What is the root cause of your symptoms? Why are you feeling the way you're feeling? And again, going back to hormones, I just feel like at the age of 20 to 25, that's when our thyroid starts to go. That means that issues like constipation, anxiety, being the only one that's with a sweater in a room. It's like hypothyroid. It's a classic sign, and we all are educated from the same Gray's Anatomy book. So I'm like, why are they not seeing it? Going back to medical school, going back to the educational part, we have to look at the root cause of why the symptoms show up, and why is it?
Right. And actually, the FDA just met, and they believe that many doctors actually need to be retrained, because at the end of the day, and again, I'm not shooting down traditional medicine. It catches a lot of things. I've had a lot of incredible doctors over the years. But at the end of the day, by the time you get to your primary care physician, they're simply masking whatever the symptom is, and they're not getting to the root cause of the problem. Is that fair to say?
It is, and we can't blame the doctors, because with the doctor's visit, you only get like 5 minutes, 10 minutes max with your primary, just because they have to see X amount of patients per day. They don't have the time to sit down and say, oh, let's look at your root cause. Let's see, you should eat this, you should eat that. I mean, it's layers and layers stuff that we need to go in there and fix.
Now, you also talk to a lot of your patients about, disruptors, things that are causing your thyroid or different hormone levels to be out of whack, from the plastics, what we're putting on our skin, the foods that we're eating. Talk to me a little bit about that educational component of your practice.
Yes, and so again, let's talk a little bit about social media. So you have all these beautiful girls in social media with this beautiful makeup tutorial. And of course, we want to learn how to apply makeup and look great on TV or on social media. Well, a lot of times these makeup have a lot of hormonal disruptors, and these girls are putting it on their face at such a young age, and our skin is the largest organ in the body. Of course, it's going to compete with the receptor cells of your hormones, like your thyroid.
Yeah, and you even see, these younger, like preteen girls at Sephora, throwing in hundreds of dollars worth of products, and their moms are right there at the cash register paying for all of this. You're not doing your child any favors at that developmental stage. To have all of these products on your skin is not necessarily the right route to take.
Exactly, and unfortunately, they're targeting the younger market group. They're targeting young kids with these hormonal disruptors.
All right, so let's talk about something else, because I know you're very much into preventative care, and there is something called epigenetics. Talk to me about what that is and why getting tested and screened is so important.
Oh, I love the subject of epigenetics. I remember eons ago when I was sitting at UF and the conversation about epigenetics just came out. They were talking about CRISPR and then the SNP genes and all this stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was so fascinated. And here, fast forward 30 plus years later, it's at our fingertips, where we're able to go and test our genetic markers to see what we can do to prevent that from showing up. What I mean is that genetically, we're inherit certain genes. We cannot change those genes. However, with something called epigenetics, we're able to turn on or off that genetic expression.
So interesting. So you sent over your report. It was very long. It was very detailed, and the print was really small. I was going to try to share it with the folks that are watching Bloom Health Club. But talk to me about the results that you got back and what you might have been shocked about with your own screening.
So what I did was that I'm always about prevention, because that's like, what can I do to take control of things? And of course, I'm my own guinea pig, and that's what I do. And I know for a fact, family history, my whole entire family start graying. Their hair turned gray ever since they were in their teenage years. So they all end up dyeing their hair and all that good stuff. So it's like, you know what? I want to control that. And I don't even dye my hair. My hair's natural. And I'm 51, 52. And what that does is that I know that there is the genetic history. However, why is it graying so fast? What can I do to control it? It all starts with the chemistry, biochemistry. So trace minerals, mineral complex, all that stuff is kind of like the precursor of what your body's going to be later on. So if I know that, what can I do to prevent it? So going back to the epigenetics and my blood results, it's fascinating. They're able to test to see my genetic makeup if I would eat more, if there's background music or not. That's why when you go to the restaurant, there's always background music, because you eat more because your brain is not processing that mindful eating.
That's really fascinating. So the takeaway is don't play background music at home or you're going to eat more.
Yes, or the TV, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that we talk about a lot on Bloom Health Club is something that I am genetically inclined to, and that is osteopenia and osteoporosis. Now, in traditional medicine, your insurance company will start paying for a DEXA scan at the age of 65 for ladies. Ladies, by 65, had I waited, I would have been in a world of hurt. And it never really crossed my mind because I'm really active. I lift weights a lot. I do a lot of things. But at the end of the day, when I got back my results, it showed in the same spinal area where my grandmother broke her back, and then her daughter, my mother, broke her back, was where I was starting to show weakening. And now you can go try to get a script earlier. You can pay out of pocket for what is called a REMS. It's REMS. It's a scan that is now slowly becoming available in the Tampa Bay area. By doing this, I was able to reverse the bone loss, which a lot of people are sold this bill of goods that once your bone starts deteriorating, it's gone together. But that's not true, right, Dr. Kathleen?
It's not true, because they forget that your body has the ability to heal itself if you provided the right deficiency, the right underlying nutrient deficiency. And for you, when we talk about osteoporosis or osteopenia, your bone has to build the bone, it has to break down. It builds the bone, it breaks down. And that's your innate intelligence doing it. So being on like a medication to help to build the bones, you can see it on the scan, but it's not really laying down the foundation. And that's why if you go to the dentist, if you're on a specific drug, they're like, oh, we can't extract your teeth because it might fracture, it might break, because it's almost like a glass. You paint white paint on it. It looks white, but if you fell, what's going to happen? It's going to shatter. So it's so important for us to understand that, hey, if this is my genetic history, what am I going to do to turn on or off that genetic expression? I better work out more. So when I work out, weight-bearing exercise help for your body to rebuild that bone naturally. And of course, hormones like testosterone is so important for the body to build up that bone, again, from the inside.
Yeah, and what I noticed, and I think, it's a misnomer for a lot of women. Oh, I don't want testosterone to build too many muscles. I don't want to lift too heavy of weights. At the end of the day, when I started down this path of getting my hormones balanced, taking the right nutraceuticals and vitamins to support my bone health, I read some random study out of Harvard that if I ate 5 prunes a day, that would help my bone health. So I started doing that. And I never ended up bulking up. The exact opposite happened. I started to morph into a much smaller woman than I was when I was on a treadmill, 30 minutes to an hour a day. It was the exact opposite effect. And then my year-to-year bone scan showed that I did actually in a pretty aggressive way, start to build back more bones. So it can happen for any woman if you get on the right preventative track, right, Dr. Kathleen?
Of course, and that's why I'm big about blood testing. It's like everybody's so different, so it allows us to see and personalize your treatment plan a lot better, and that's what functional health is all about. Instead of saying, okay, this is what's deficient, this is what you need. It's like, okay, why is it deficient? What can we do to rebuild it and put it back where you're supposed to be? And I mean, I feel healthier in my 50s than I ever did even in my 20s.
I do too. You know,
Right?
I started Bloom almost 5 years ago. Actually, July was my 5-year anniversary with the show. And we started right at the start of the pandemic. And, you know, you were one of the very first experts to come on the globally syndicated show. And from that, you know, Bloom Health Club was born. And we have a deeper dive conversation with experts like yourself. If you look at my weight, if you look at my skin, if you look at my energy level, my emotional status, everything has transformed where I feel better today at the age of 58 than I did all those years ago in my early to mid 50s. So it's amazing how, and listen, I'm just practicing what the experts preach, and it does in fact work. And what I really find to be interesting about you, Dr. Kathleen, is your mix of Eastern and Western medicine, just from your own background, your patients learn a lot about natural ways to heal.
Exactly. And I think it's important to be a doctor. That means to teach. And in my heart, I feel like if my patient understand why do they have to take what they have to take, they'll be more compliant. But not only that, I want them to understand why. So let's say if they move away to Alaska, Siberia, wherever they are, they're like, hey, you know what? I just don't feel that good. Please listen to your body. Your body is like the smartest doctor in that room. Your body is telling you something is not right. Even though the blood work range say, oh, you're fine, but it's not optimal range. It's not where your body's supposed to be at.
Very interesting. Now, in addition to going back to ancient medicine, which is something that you regularly talk about with all of your patients and with all of our viewers, you're a self-proclaimed geek. Like, you know how to use technology not only to advance your own health, but to advance the health of your patients. What are some of the things that you've rolled out here in the Tampa Bay area that you've learned from all these conferences that you attend?
Oh my gosh, I learned so much, not from my colleagues, but from my patients too, because they come up with the weirdest symptoms. I'm like, I don't really know what the symptoms are, but let me look it up. And of course, I love AI, I love ChatGPT, and how we incorporate it into medical practice is absolutely phenomenal. And so what I learned is that, hey, let's see what we can do to protect our body, protect myself, and decelerate my aging process as much as possible. So I just had this whole full body MRI scan from head to toe, and I found out things about me that I didn't even know I have symptoms.
Like what?
Well, they found like this little gallstone, and I don't really eat fatty stuff, and I don't have any pain. And usually they're like, oh, there's gallstone. Let's go and suck that gallbladder out. Well, your gallbladder's there for a reason. It helps to break down the fat. And if that gallbladder's taken out, what is it going to do? It's going to put a lot of pressure on your liver, which can cause elevated liver enzymes.
You also have devices. Like, I mean, I've come to your office before and you're like clipping things to my fingers, putting things on my scalp. Tell me about the technology that you use in office and how that helps you figure out what's going on with your patient's health.
Yes, and that thing is called a neural check. And what that is that we hook you up and we're able to scan. It's called heart rate variance. So your heart rate actually can determine what's happening inside your body. And when you get hooked up, we're able to see how is your sleeping pattern, how is your body able to actually shut down and get into that deep sleep, because sleep is very important.
All right. Now it is time to answer some viewer questions. Our first one comes from Kayla, who asks, is collagen worth the hype when it comes to diet and skin health, or are there better food-based options?
Well, collagen is really important, especially if you get into that menopause. Once when you get into menopause, that means that you no longer have a period for more than 6 months. Your body stops making estrogen. I'm talking about estradiol. So anybody that's in menopause, make sure that you're able to supplement yourself with like a collagen peptide. But foods that are rich in natural collagen is actually tendons and ligaments. And these are organ meats that you're able to eat to provide the natural collagen.
You mean like liver and things like that?
Yeah.
I like it. You give me some liver with some sauteed onions, I'm good to go. All right, on enough about my wants and needs. Let's go to Matthew's question. How quickly can clean eating impact blood markers like inflammation, blood sugar, or liver enzymes?
It really depends. I usually tell everybody, give it at least 3 months because your body has to find that homeostasis. So sometimes a patient that's been eating terribly for like 20 years of their lives and they think that 1 week of clean eating will reverse everything. That's like, I wish it happens that way, but it doesn't. So your body needs a little time to acclimate.
All right, next question comes from Caitlin, who wants to know, how is ashwagandha classified in the functional medicine world? Is it considered a supplement, an adaptogen, or something else?
It's considered an adaptogen, and it's actually a herb. So what it does is that it really helps to balance your cortisol level, which helps you to manage with your stress.
Okay, that's a good one. And ashwagandha must be popular because we have another question. Can it support thyroid health? Is it safe for those with Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism?
I would want to say yes, but in moderation. So when we talk about Hashimoto's or thyroid imbalances, we not only want to look at the thyroid, again, the Eastern medicine side, I want to look at your body as a whole. So the thyroid gland is married to your adrenals, and your adrenals is really what's producing the cortisol level. So by supporting the adrenals, your stress level, it can actually calm the Hashimoto's down.
Okay, and it's really interesting because you and I were talking off camera about ashwagandha because I'm a big fan of it. I tend to take it right before I go to sleep and in the middle of the night if I get up at like 2:30 or 3 because I'm figuring, oh, my cortisol levels must be up if I'm getting up at that time. But you said the real time to take it is in the mid-afternoon. Why?
Yes, because we talk about the circadian rhythm, again, going back to traditional Chinese medicine. What that does is that if you take your ashwagandha kind of like a little bit earlier, before 3 o'clock in the evening, in the afternoon, what it does is that it helps to release that cortisol so it'll calm you down so you're able to get into that deeper sleep.
That's really good. And then another, fun fact from Dr. Kathleen, if you're having trouble in the bedroom, she recommends maca, right?
Yes, maca is a root that traditionally it helps to support your hormonal reproduction. So what that does is that it's not a hormone, it's actually a root that you can actually in a powder form, you can throw in your smoothie and it tastes so yummy.
So I make my husband a smoothie every day before I leave for work. I leave it for him in the fridge. Throw in a little maca and it might spice up my sex life. Is that what you're saying, Dr. Kathleen?
Double dose it.
Double dose it. I love that. I love that. Well, listen, Dr. Kathleen, how can people find you on social media? I know that even if folks don't live in the Tampa Bay area, you're always putting out great information for the folks that follow you.
You can find me at Dr. Kathleen, Cathleen. And I'm on Instagram, or you can Google my name, and I'm there on Facebook, and I'm always on social media.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Kathleen. And we want to thank our sponsor, Monticello Family and Sedation Dentistry, for supporting Bloom Health Club. Without their support, we wouldn't be able to bring you this valuable information from top medical experts across Tampa Bay and around the nation. You can watch our streaming show, Bloom Health Club, on Apple TV, Fire TV, Roku, Samsung TV, WFLA.com, and YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. See you on the next Bloom Health Club.